I'm Angela Kelly Robeck, host of the Empowered Principal Podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to Fresh Air at 5, the podcast. I'm your host, Bryon Carpenter, coming to you every week from Abbotsford, which is about 45 minutes east of Vancouver, British Columbia, on the west coast of Canada. Fresh Air at 5 is my regular attempt to get some fresh air by walking about my neighborhood, which is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Stolo people, the Simath First Nation and Mathwee First Nation. I consume podcast content while I walk, then reflect on this content in an unedited video, which I post on my X, formerly known as Twitter, channel every day. This podcast is the collection of the audio taken from those daily selfie videos over the course of a week, Monday to Friday. So let's jump into my listening and learning this past week. Hey, PLN, it's November 24, 2025. Good morning to you. We have some high overcast clouds. Stars are shining through. It's beautiful this morning, 5 degrees Celsius. And we are between our rainstorms. Thankful for that. All right, it's U.S. Thanksgiving coming up this week. So, yes, one of my friends and listeners are going to be having a holiday in the United States. And that's great. And this morning I listened to Tech Tools for Teachers episode 222 with Shanna Martin and Fuzz Martin, and they talked about how in their state, in their school, it's during hunting season this week, and they get an extended potential day off this week for maybe Wednesday, that if students in good standing are doing well in their classes, they can get parents to sign a release sheet that's hunter orange so they can go hunting. And I think that's a great idea. I think that's so cool because it encourages outdoors and encourages students to get out with their families and to do the things that are culturally relevant in their area. We don't have a fishing day here. Wish we did. That'd be nice. But yes. All right. On episode 222 of Tech Tools for Teachers, Fuzz and Shanna talk about this research-based website called Ducksters, and it's a way for elementary, upper elementary, and middle school students to go do research that's a kid-friendly space. And so I haven't checked it out yet, Shanna, but I'm going to, because I think this could be a valuable resource to share with students. It gives decent citations and leveled reading for them so that it's not too much reading, and they can get the information they're looking for on a variety of all the things, as you talked about. So if you're doing some research on a thing, you can go check and see if there's all the animals of Africa that are there, for example, or the animals of the North, and, have students do their research there and look at the sites that follow from there, as opposed to doing just a general Google search. All right, so that's Ducksters, which is a kid-friendly, quick research tool that students can use. Thanks, Shanna. Thanks, Fuzz. Hope you're doing well. Have a fabulous day. Bye. One more thing for November 24, 2025. Why Edify, episode 79, has my friend Jeremy Jorgensen do some reflecting. And we talk about the historical figures in the world and how those historical figures can teach us lessons about living life. But what about the historical figures in our own lives? What about those that have gone before us that are, towards the end of their life, or even beyond, and have passed away? Well, in episode 79, Jeremy reflects as he is returning this past weekend from a memorial service for his wife's grandmother. And it's called Lessons Learned from a Well-Lived Life. And, things that his wife's grandmother has taught him. And him just being observant as he was at the memorial service and being part of the family over the many years that he has been because of his relationship with his wife, and how those kinds of things, can make a difference and do make a difference. How do we show up for each other in our families? How do we model behavior? How do we get it done? And some of the lessons that he learned was about the simplicity, living simply and not extravagantly, about showing up every day and not expecting to be noticed, but just doing your job and making a difference in people's lives. And that's fantastic, Jeremy. I appreciate you sharing this. This is a significant thing to think about, because we can strive to be historical figures in the world, and people will remember Jeremy Jorgensen and Bryon Carpenter for many years to come. But what about our family? What do they say about us? What do they say about us as we reflect and think about their lives? My father-in-law taught me a lot about woodworking. He's still here. Hasn't passed away yet, but I'm really thankful for my father-in-law and what he has taught me about woodworking and doing jobs around the house and how to get about doing that. And we recently finished our bathroom renovation, and I thought about him as I was doing the project, because there's a lot of things that I have learned from him over the years. All right, thanks, Jeremy. Thank you all. Have a fabulous day. When you look for the good and you expect the good and such like that, you will find the good and the good will find you. That's the message that Bryon Martin gives us today on episode 99 of the X Factor Level Up Your Mental Game. And he talks about, what are you looking for as we go through our day? What are you looking for? And we have a propensity for looking for the negative things. We can see the negative so easily. We are critical creatures, and we want our kids to be critical thinkers, but that does not mean looking for the bad in everything that happens. Looking for the things that can be improved and being thoughtful about what we look for. So look for the good. It makes our days better and changes the outlook that we have, that we're going into our day going, it's going to be a good day, and not wearing rose-colored glasses so that we just see the rosy things. But I think if we are tending to look through rose-colored glasses, that our attitude will change, and then when we don't wear those glasses, we will be seeing the good. Bryon, I appreciate it. Appreciate the challenge. Thank you for that. And in my days right now, we got a lot going on in my family. There's a lot of good that's going on. My daughter is having her final Christmas concert with choir as a high school student. She's going to potential in the future of singing with them again. But this is the last of the expected. She's going to sing in the choir concert. Looking forward to that this weekend. We've got things like, I've got opportunities with the BCTF here in BC to serve on committees and be part of the MyPETA executive. And I get to go to a meeting this week in Vancouver and engage with other like-minded educators and make a difference in our Pro-D in our province. Many, many more examples. I'm not going to keep on going, but thank you, Bryon. Appreciate you having us think about this. And take a listen for yourself. Episode 99 of the X Factor Level Up Your Mental Game with Bryon Martin. Hey, PLN, November 26, 2025. Happy Wednesday afternoon. It's not raining. It's been soaking here, and thankful that it's not raining. Got out for my walk this afternoon because there's a lot going on in our home, and I'm quite tired. But I had time after work now, coming out for a walk on this beautiful afternoon before the sun sets. All right, as I'm walking this afternoon, listen to episode 347 of the Easy Ed Tech Classroom with Monica Burns, as she brings us tools for helping improve efficiency and organization, digital tools that can help us. It's not the title, but the gist of it is that she talks about tools like Google Keep and Wakelet, talks about Adobe Express for professional portfolio management, like in their web pages, that you can make one for an event and put resources in there. She talks about Asana and Slack, about Microsoft Teams, looking at Wakelet and Padlet as well, and a variety of tools that can be assistive to you. You need some help and an idea? Come and take a listen to episode 347 of the Easy EdTech Classroom with Easy EdTech Podcast with Monica Burns. Monica, one that I like using is Microsoft Sticky Notes, and it's built into the Windows 11 platform. And when I sign into my computer, it signs myself into my sticky notes, which is like a little post-it note system that I can put on my desktop. So I put little post-it notes on my desktop. It's not within an app, but it's on the desktop, so I can have these things floating around on my desktop, which is pretty fun. And it doesn't give me to-do lists, but I really like it because it's searchable, like Keep is. Allows me to put notes and things on there. I can do it from my phone. I can do it from my computer, and super helpful for just those constant things that I have to, get copy and paste. Like when I'm sending my students welcome messages in my online course, I get the message for that specific course and drop it in that has, good details in it. All right, that's one that I use a lot. I really like it, and I really like the fact that you had talked about Adobe Express. That's my go-to creativity tool, and it has in there web pages. So that's pretty good that's a good idea. I like that. I used to curate my content from my conference going in Twitter and would make a series of threads, discussion points and stuff there. But having something like a notepad or something, that's pretty good. All right, thanks. Have a happy day. Bye. One more thing for November 26, 2025. I just came across STEM Everyday Podcast with Chris Woods. And Chris, how you doing? It's been ages since I've listened, and sorry about that, but I found your podcast again. Looking at that great logo, that's fantastic, and glad to hear your enthusiasm for STEM has not waned since I started listening to your podcast. You talked with Chuck Ridgway on episode 308 of the STEM Everyday Podcast, as you guys talked about automation in education and talking about how we need to teach our students about learning about practical problem-solving ways of thinking so that they can look at a problem and break it down and figure out how they can, solve a problem. We've got a lot of tools. We've got a lot of tools that they're using. Okay. And I'm crossing the street. It's dangerous. Oh, my daughter's about to run over me here. There she is right there. And we are teaching them about thinking outside the box. How can we use these things that we're using to solve problems? I teach digital media and media design, and the whole point there is how we can use the tools that we have to make creative things. But we're looking at graphic design solutions for problems. My buddy, he teaches STEM stuff with robots and robotics and 3D printers, and he is definitely doing this on a regular basis with our students. All right, check out episode 308 of the STEM Everyday Podcast with Chris Woods and Chuck Ridgway. Thanks, guys. Bye. The last thing for November 26, 2025. Bryon Martin on the X Factor Level Up Your Mental Game brings us episode 100. Bryon, congratulations. That's awesome, brother. That is fantastic. You hit 100. And in episode 100, you talk about how when we enter a room, we need to share our words with those that are in that room because time is fleeting and we don't know how long we have to be able to do that. So it's about sharing our words of goodness. And when we're thinking about someone, reach out, say, hey, this is something that I've learned from Teach Happier with Suzanne Daly, as she talks about, sending out those reminder texts to people that says, hey, I was just thinking about you and I wanted you to know that. And so it's important that we do that. Thank you so much, Bryon. I appreciate it. Appreciate the reminder. And people, make sure that we make the moments count with those that are around us because we don't know how long we got with them. Not saying it all morbidly, but it's about optimizing and maximizing the impact that we have every day. Okay, bye. Hey, PLN, Friday, November 28, 2025, out for Fresh Art 5 in Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm in town today and tomorrow for a BCTF meeting and staying at the Holiday Inn on Broadway. Got up this morning and I looked at, I said, hey, can I do a loop? And I am doing a loop. I'm doing the Granville Street to Cambie loop and back to my hotel. So it's going to be a bit of a longer one, but it's going to be a beautiful walk. So I'm excited about this. All right, this morning I first listened to Kelly on episode 413 of the Empowered Principal podcast. She's a member of the Educational Podcast Network that I am, and she brings us an episode called Drowning in Doubt, when education's value is questioned. And she brings a lot of questions that are important for us to consider as we are in a state of, questioning and concern, and how people are concerned about education. Teachers are tired, principals are spent, and at a time of Thanksgiving to sit and reflect about all the things and how to keep on moving. So if you're a principal out there, I am thankful for the work that you do, because it's a challenge to keep a school moving. All of us as leaders are trying to keep school moving and moving forward in a direction that is a positive, serving our students and making a difference for our students. All right, take a listen for yourself. It's an encouraging and heavy kind of episode, but worth thinking about. All right, I got more to go. Talk to you soon. Bye. One more thing for November 28, 2025 episode. I can't remember exactly. It is the Always a Lesson Empowering Educators podcast with Gretchen Bridger. She brings us an episode, and you'll have to go look it up, because it's about classroom conversations that matter and empowering students to speak in class. Now, she talks about the, busyness of a classroom and all the things that go along there, and the noise and all that stuff. But it's important that we structure our lessons to engage in good quality classroom conversations. How are we asking questions? The need for open-ended questions and things like that. How can we encourage students to share their student voice? We say it's important, but what do we do about that? And how do we go about getting them to speak up? So take a listen to this. Lots of great ideas that Gretchen has, and it might inspire you if you're having struggles, or if you got talking to students. What can you do about it? Gretchen Bridger has some great ideas for us. Thanks. Gotta go. More to listen to. Heading across the Cambie Street Bridge pretty quick. Okay, bye. All right, the last thing for November 28, 2025. I've had a fantastic walk here as I've walked around the loop from Granville Street Bridge to the Cambie Street Bridge and back to the Holiday Inn where I'm staying. And it has been a beautiful morning. Lots of sidewalk walking, but that's the way it is when you're in an urban place. This morning, as I listened to the Creative Classroom with John Spencer, as he talks to us about helping students select the scaffolds and empowering them to select the scaffolds themselves, as it typically is with John Spencer. As he brings us lots of ideas about, how the zone of proximal development, about UDL, about things like that. I'm thankful for the universal design of sidewalks, because there's curb cuts, and I just learned about that this morning. But those were developed in 1976 to help those that needed access to curbs, and we all use them now, and nobody thinks about it. But when they're not there, we notice that. And so how are we setting up our classrooms for students' success with scaffolding and learning? Take a listen to what John has to say. Thanks for being here. Appreciate. And I'm going to go get a cup of coffee right now and go to my meeting. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye.
I appreciate you giving me a listen as I've created this podcast experience for you. It's like a unique Blinkist or Coles Notes version of the content I take in, like a highlight reel, so that you can hopefully find some other interesting podcasts you may not have considered before. I've recorded the specific episode podcast titles and episode numbers in the show notes, which are only a click or swipe away for your learning convenience. I've also started to put together a Spotify playlist of each of the episodes so that you can also take a listen to those specifically, and the link to that playlist is in the show notes. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. And if you enjoy this podcast and its format, share it with someone else. You can also follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Bryon Carr, BRYONCAR, or at Fresh Air at 5. Tweet about your experience or give it a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Fresh Air at 5 can be found on the Educational Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. I hope you have a fantastic day. Get some fresh air before the day is out and take care of yourself because you are worth it.